My name is Fatima Hassan, 31 years old, and the moment my brother told me his wedding already happened was the moment I realized love had made me blind. I still remember standing in my kitchen that Tuesday morning, phone pressed against my ear, asking the question I thought was innocent. So what time should I arrive on Saturday for the ceremony? There was a pause. The kind that stretches too long and lands too heavy. Then Omar's voice came through, casual as ordering coffee. Oh, we had it yesterday. Actually, it was really nice. Small and intimate, you know. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My hand gripped the counter so hard my knuckles went pale. The wedding I had paid for. Every single cent. The venue deposit, the catering, the flowers, even his fiancée's dress alterations. $43,000. Gone. And I wasn't even there. I wasn't even told. Omar, I finally managed, my voice barely steady. You're joking, right? No, why would I be joking? He sounded genuinely confused, like I was the one being strange. We decided last minute to do it early. Just close family and friends. It was perfect, honestly. Layla looked amazing. Close family. I repeated the words slowly, letting them settle like stones in my chest. I'm your sister, Omar. He laughed. A short, dismissive sound that I'd heard too many times in our lives but never thought would be aimed at me like this. Yeah, but you've been so stressed lately with work and everything. We didn't want to burden you. Plus, you already helped so much financially. We figured that was your gift. My breath caught. My gift. $43,000, and my presence wasn't even worth a phone call. I have to go, I said quietly. Wait, Fatima, don't be dramatic about this. We'll do a reception thing later. You can come to that. I hung up. For a long time, I just stood there in the middle of my small kitchen, staring at nothing. The hum of the refrigerator. The distant sound of traffic outside. The ghost of every sacrifice I'd made for him sitting heavy on my shoulders. Our parents died when I was 23 and Omar was 17. Car accident on the highway coming back from visiting family up north. One moment they were alive. The next, I was signing papers at a hospital I couldn't afford to be treated in myself. I became his guardian, his provider, his entire world. I worked 2 jobs so he could finish high school without worrying. I skipped my own graduate program so I could pay for his college. I moved to a cheaper apartment when he needed help with his first car. And when he told me he was getting married, when he looked at me with those same brown eyes we got from our mother and said, Fatima, I don't know how I'll ever afford this, I didn't hesitate. I opened my savings. Every dollar I'd been putting away for years. Gone. Because that's what family does, right? That's what love looks like. Except now I was standing alone in my apartment realizing that love had only been moving in one direction. And I'd been too busy giving to notice I was the only one bleeding. I opened my banking app. Pulled up the transfers. Venue, $8,000. Catering, $12,000. Photographer, $3,500. Florist, $2,000. Dress alterations, $400. DJ, $1,500. The list went on and on. At the bottom, my savings account balance stared back at me. $1,214. That was all I had left. And my brother, the man I raised, couldn't even pick up the phone to tell me when his wedding was happening. I sat down at my kitchen table and did something I hadn't done since our parents' funeral. I cried. Not the quiet kind. The kind that shakes your whole body and leaves you gasping for air. Because this wasn't just about a wedding. It was about a lifetime of being taken for granted, of being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never asked for anything in return. And the worst part? I had let it happen. I had taught him that my love came without conditions, without limits, without needing to be reciprocated. By the time the tears stopped, something inside me had shifted. It wasn't anger yet. It was something colder. Clarity. I picked up my phone and opened the group chat with our extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. People who'd been asking me for weeks about wedding details. I typed carefully. Just found out Omar's wedding happened yesterday. I wasn't invited. Wishing them all the best. Then I turned off my phone, walked into my bedroom, and pulled out the box I kept under my bed. Inside were years of receipts, letters, photographs. Evidence of every time I'd chosen him over myself. I spread them across my bed like a timeline of selflessness. And for the first time in 8 years, I asked myself the question I'd been too afraid to ask. What did I get in return? The answer was sitting in my call log. A brother who couldn't even remember to invite me to the most important day of his life. That night, I didn't sleep. I planned. I woke up Wednesday morning with a decision already made. No more crying. No more spiraling. Just action. I opened my laptop and started a spreadsheet. Every dollar I'd ever given Omar, tracked and documented. 8 years of financial support laid out in rows and columns. Rent assistance during college, $24,000. Car payments, $18,000. Emergency loans that were never paid back, $7,000. Books, groceries, insurance, phone bills. And finally, the wedding. $43,000. Grand total, $106,000. I stared at that number for a long time. That was a house down payment. That was financial security. That was my entire 20s, converted into currency and handed over without question. I saved the file, titled it clearly, and attached it to an email. Then I started typing. Omar, thank you for letting me know about your wedding after it happened. I'm glad it was everything you hoped for. Attached is a breakdown of every financial contribution I've made since Mom and Dad died. Consider it a wedding gift with a receipt. I wish you and Layla all the happiness in the world. Take care, Fatima. My finger hovered over the send button. Part of me, the part that had been conditioned to protect him, to shield him, wanted to delete it. But the other part, the part that had finally woken up, pressed send before I could stop myself. The email delivered with a soft whoosh. Done. I closed my laptop and got ready for work like it was any other day. Except my hands were shaking the entire time. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. By lunchtime, my phone started buzzing. First, a text from Omar. We need to talk. Call me. I deleted it. Then another. Fatima, seriously, this is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. Deleted. Then a third. Why are you doing this? You're making me look bad in front of Layla's family. That one I read twice before deleting. Making him look bad. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. Not, I should have told you. Just concern about his image. An hour later, my cousin Nadia called. Fatima, Habibi, what's going on? Omar is panicking. He says you sent him some crazy email. It wasn't crazy, I said calmly. It was honest. She sighed. He's your brother. You know how he is. Yes, I do. That's the problem. But Fatima, you raised him. He depends on you. Nadia, I'm 31 years old. I've spent 8 years putting his life before mine. I wasn't even invited to his wedding. There was silence. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. I didn't know that part. None of us did. Because he didn't tell anyone, I said. He let everyone assume I chose not to come. Now you know the truth. When we hung up, I felt lighter. Not happy, but unburdened. Like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't realize was crushing me until I finally set it down. That evening, my Aunt Samira called. Her voice was sharp, accusatory. Fatima, your brother is beside himself. How could you embarrass him like this? I didn't embarrass him, I replied evenly. He embarrassed himself by not inviting me to his wedding. That's between you two. You don't air family business in emails. She gave you money willingly. Nobody forced you. You're right, I said. Nobody forced me. But nobody appreciated it either. Samira, when was the last time Omar thanked me? Or asked how I was doing? Or offered to help me with anything? She went quiet. Exactly, I continued. I've been invisible unless he needed something. Well, I'm done being invisible. You're being selfish, she snapped. He's starting a new life. He needs support. And I needed a sister when I was 23 and suddenly responsible for a teenager, I shot back. Where was the family support then? Who helped me pay for his school? Who stayed up with me when I was working double shifts? Nobody. I did it alone. So forgive me if I'm finally asking what I get in return besides being excluded from the life I funded. She hung up without another word. By Thursday, the family group chat was on fire. I'd muted it, but I checked once out of morbid curiosity. Aunt Samira had posted. Family is about forgiveness, not scorekeeping. We all make mistakes. Cousin Jamal replied. Maybe, but not inviting Fatima was messed up. Let's be real. Uncle Kareem chimed in. This is between them. Everyone should stay out of it. Then Nadia, bless her, posted the truth. For everyone asking, Fatima paid for the entire wedding and wasn't told it happened. She found out after. That changed the tone immediately. Cousin Layla wrote, wait, she paid for everything and wasn't invited? That's insane. Aunt Hiba added, Omar needs to apologize. This isn't right. Even my uncle Rashid, who never got involved in drama, posted, Fatima deserves better than this. I closed the chat and felt something I hadn't felt in days. Vindication. Not because I wanted Omar to be attacked, but because finally, people saw what I'd been living with. The invisibility. The thanklessness. The assumption that I'd always just be there, giving, without needing anything back. Friday afternoon, Omar called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. What? I said flatly. Fatima, please. His voice cracked. Can we just talk? About what? About how you had your wedding without me? Or about how you didn't think I was close enough family to attend? That's not fair. You're twisting this. I'm twisting it? Omar, you got married and didn't tell me. I paid for everything. Everything. And I found out the next day like I was some distant acquaintance. We thought you'd be okay with it, he stammered. You've been so busy. We didn't want to bother you. So instead of asking, you just decided for me. He exhaled sharply. Look, Layla's family kept saying the guest list was too big. We had to cut people. I was your sister before I was your ATM, I said coldly. Maybe remember that next time. Fatima, come on. Don't do this. Don't do what? Stop letting you use me? There was a long pause. Then his voice changed. Harder. Fine. If that's how you feel, maybe we need space. Maybe we do, I agreed. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, waiting for the guilt to crash over me like it always did. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something unexpected. Relief. For the first time in 8 years, I wasn't responsible for his feelings. I wasn't managing his problems. I was just me. And that felt like freedom. The silence lasted exactly 5 days. Then the messages started coming from people I barely knew. Layla's sister Amira sent me a friend request on social media with a message attached. Hi Fatima, I heard there was some confusion about the wedding. Omar feels terrible. Maybe you two can work this out? I didn't respond. Then came a message from Omar's best friend Khalid. Hey, I know it's not my place, but Omar is really struggling. He misses you. Can you just hear him out? I typed back, did he miss me at his wedding? Khalid didn't reply. By the following Tuesday, the real storm arrived. My phone rang at 7 in the morning. Unknown number. I answered half asleep. Is this Fatima Hassan? A woman's voice asked. Yes, who's this? This is Noor from Grandview Gardens, the venue where your brother's wedding was held. We have an outstanding balance of $4,000. The final payment was supposed to clear last week, but the transaction was declined. I sat up straight, suddenly very awake. That's impossible. I paid the deposit months ago. The rest was supposed to come from Omar. There was a pause, the sound of papers shuffling. According to our records, the agreement was split payment. 50% deposit from you, which cleared. The remaining 50% was supposed to come from the groom the week before the event. It never did. We allowed the wedding to proceed based on the deposit and good faith, but we need the balance settled within 10 days or we'll have to pursue collections. My stomach dropped. He told me he had the rest covered. He said his savings and some help from Layla's family would handle it. I'm sorry, but we need payment from someone. I closed my eyes, rage burning hot in my chest. I'll call you back. I hung up and immediately dialed Omar. It rang 4 times before he picked up. What? His voice was cold. Did you pay the venue? Silence. Omar, did you pay Grandview Gardens the final $4,000? I was going to, he muttered. But things got tight with the honeymoon and moving expenses. You said you had it covered. I thought you'd understand and just take care of it like you always do. Like I always do, I repeated slowly. So you lied to me, had your wedding, didn't invite me, and now you want me to pay the rest because you assumed I'd just handle it. Fatima, don't make this a bigger deal than it is. It's $4,000. It's always $4,000 with you. Or $2,000. Or $500. It's never just about the money, Omar. It's about the fact that you think I exist to solve your problems. He scoffed. Here we go again. The martyr speech. I hung up. This time I didn't cry. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt done. I called the venue back. This is Fatima Hassan. I'm calling about the outstanding balance for Omar Hassan's wedding. Yes, the woman said hopefully. Will you be settling the account? No, I said firmly. I paid my portion. The groom is responsible for the rest. If he doesn't pay, that's between you and him. I'm not covering it. But, Miss Hassan, your name is on the initial contract as a co-signer. I felt my blood run cold. What? You co-signed the venue agreement. That makes you equally responsible for the full payment. I pulled up my email archives frantically, searching for the contract I'd signed months ago. There it was. And there, in tiny print at the bottom, was the clause. Co-signers are jointly and severally liable for all charges incurred. Omar had sent me that document. He'd told me it was just for the deposit. He'd known exactly what he was doing. I took a deep breath. I'll get back to you, I told Noor, then hung up before she could respond. I sat on my couch staring at the wall. He'd trapped me. Even after everything, even after the wedding I wasn't invited to, I was still on the hook. Still responsible. Still the one who'd have to clean up his mess or let my own credit get destroyed. For a moment, the old version of me wanted to just pay it. Swallow the anger, take the hit, move on. Keep the peace. But something had changed. I wasn't that person anymore. I opened my laptop and drafted an email to Omar with Layla copied. Subject line, final payment for Grandview Gardens venue. I wrote, Omar and Layla, I was contacted today regarding the unpaid balance of $4,000 for your wedding venue. I've attached the payment history showing I fulfilled my financial commitment. The remaining balance is your responsibility. I will not be covering it. If the venue pursues legal action due to non-payment, I will be providing all documentation showing I was misled about the payment arrangement and that you assured me the balance was handled. You have 10 days to settle this directly with Grandview Gardens before they move forward with collections. This is not negotiable. Best, Fatima. I attached every receipt, every text message where he promised he had the rest covered, every email. Then I hit send. My phone rang within 3 minutes. I didn't answer. It rang again. And again. 12 calls in 1 hour. I blocked his number. Then Layla called from her phone. I answered. You're really going to let our credit get ruined over this? She said, her voice shaking with fury. Your credit, I corrected. You're married now. This is your responsibility. We don't have $4,000 just sitting around, Fatima. Neither do I said evenly. Maybe you should have thought about that before planning a wedding you couldn't afford. You're his sister. How can you do this to him? I'm his sister who paid for a wedding I wasn't invited to, I said. How could he do that to me? She went quiet. Then, in a smaller voice, he said you were too busy. That you understood. He lied to you, I said simply. Just like he lied to me. And now you're learning what I learned. Omar only tells the truth when it benefits him. She hung up. That night, I sat in my apartment and felt the weight of 8 years lifting off my shoulders one painful piece at a time. They could be angry. They could call me heartless. But for the first time since our parents died, I wasn't the one carrying the consequences of someone else's choices. And that felt like the first breath after drowning. 3 weeks passed in strange silence. No calls from Omar. No messages from Layla. The family group chat stayed eerily quiet, like everyone was holding their breath waiting to see what would happen next. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner for one, and slept better than I had in years. The guilt I expected never arrived. Instead, I felt something close to peace. Then one Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, Omar stood there looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usual confident posture replaced with something smaller, more uncertain. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I hesitated, then stepped aside. He walked past me into the living room and stood there awkwardly, like he didn't know what to do with his hands. We paid the venue, he said finally. Layla's parents helped us. They weren't happy about it. I nodded slowly. Good. That's what you should have done from the start. He flinched at my tone. Fatima, I know I messed up. Messed up, I repeated. Omar, you didn't just mess up. You lied to me, excluded me, and then expected me to fix your problems like I always do. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture so familiar it hurt. I didn't think you'd actually let it go to collections. That's the problem, I said quietly. You didn't think. You never think about me, about how your choices affect me. You just assume I'll always be there to catch you. He looked at the floor. I'm sorry. Those words, the ones I'd been waiting to hear for weeks, landed flat. Not because they weren't sincere, but because they felt too small for the damage that had been done. Sorry doesn't pay back $100,000, I said. Sorry doesn't erase 8 years of being taken for granted. I know, he whispered. Then why did you do it? I asked, my voice breaking despite my best efforts. Why wasn't I worth a phone call? Why wasn't I worth being there? He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes that looked like genuine shame. Layla's family kept talking about how expensive everything was. They made comments about how we should cut back, keep it intimate. And I got embarrassed. Embarrassed that my sister was paying for everything. So when they suggested doing it earlier and smaller, I just went along with it. I thought if you weren't there, people wouldn't ask questions about who paid for what. So you were ashamed of me, I said, the realization hitting like a physical blow. Not of you, he said quickly. Of myself. Of not being able to afford my own wedding. Of being 30 years old and still depending on my sister. But instead of dealing with that, I just made you invisible. I sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Omar spoke again, his voice rough. Layla's been asking about you. She wants to meet you properly. Does she know the whole story now? I asked. He nodded. Everything. I told her everything. The money, the years of help, all of it. She said I was an idiot. She's not wrong. I felt something soften slightly, just a fraction. What do you want from me, Omar? He looked at me with those brown eyes we inherited from our mother. I want my sister back. I want to fix this. But I don't know how. I don't know if you can, I said honestly. Some things break in ways that don't get repaired the same way. Then let me try anyway, he said. Please. I studied his face, searching for the boy I'd raised, the one who used to thank me for every meal, every ride, every sacrifice. Maybe he was still in there somewhere, buried under years of entitlement and assumptions. Or maybe this was who he'd become, and we both had to live with that. I'll think about it, I said finally. That's all I can promise right now. He nodded slowly, standing up to leave. When he reached the door, he turned back. For what it's worth, the wedding wasn't the same without you there. Layla kept asking why you weren't in any of the photos. I told her I didn't have a good answer. You don't, I agreed. He left quietly, and I sat alone in my apartment watching the afternoon light filter through the windows. Something had shifted, but I wasn't sure what yet. He'd apologized. He'd acknowledged the hurt. But words were just words until they were backed up by change. And change, real change, takes more than one conversation and a forced apology. It takes time, consistency, and proof that the lesson actually stuck. I wasn't sure Omar had learned that yet. But maybe, just maybe, he was starting to. 2 months went by before I heard from Omar again. This time it wasn't a desperate phone call or an angry text. It was an envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a check for $500 and a handwritten note. Fatima, I know this doesn't even make a dent in what I owe you. But it's a start. I got a promotion at work. 20% of every paycheck is going toward paying you back. No excuses this time. I mean it. Omar. I stared at that check for a long time. $500 out of $106,000. It would take him years at this rate. Maybe decades. But it wasn't really about the money anymore. It was about the fact that he'd actually done something without being forced. Without me standing over him demanding it. That meant something. I deposited the check and sent him a single text. Received. Thank you. 3 weeks later, another envelope arrived. Another $500. Then 3 weeks after that, another. He never called asking for praise or acknowledgement. He just kept sending them, quietly, consistently. By the 4th payment, I started to believe maybe he'd actually changed. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. In early December, my phone rang. It was Layla. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Fatima, hi. Her voice was tentative, nothing like the angry woman who'd called me months ago. I know this might be awkward, but I wanted to invite you to dinner. Just you, me, and Omar. No pressure, no drama. Just a chance to actually meet you properly. Why? I asked bluntly. Because Omar talks about you constantly, she said. And because I realize I married someone without understanding the most important person in his life. That was you. That is you. And I'd like to fix that if you'll let me. I agreed to meet them the following Saturday at a small restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Just neutral ground. When I arrived, they were already seated. Omar stood up immediately when he saw me, and I noticed he looked different. Older somehow, more aware. Layla stood too, and I got my first real look at the woman my brother had married. She was shorter than I expected, with kind eyes and an uncertain smile. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. We sat down, and for the first few minutes, the conversation was stilted and awkward. Then Layla did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone and showed me their wedding photos. "I thought you might want to see them," she said. "Even though you weren't there." I scrolled through image after image. Omar in his suit. Layla in her dress, the one I'd paid to have altered. The decorations I'd funded. The venue I'd nearly been held responsible for. And in every single photo, there was an empty space where I should have been. "You looked beautiful," I told Layla honestly. She smiled sadly. "I wish you'd been there." I spent the whole day feeling like something was missing. Omar finally spoke. Because someone was missing. The most important person. I looked at him across the table. He wasn't making excuses this time. He wasn't defending himself. He was just sitting with the guilt of what he'd done. That was new. We ate dinner slowly, talking about small things at first. Their apartment. My job. The weather. Then gradually, carefully, we started talking about the real things. Omar told me about the panic he'd felt when the venue called. The shame of having to ask Layla's parents for help. The realization that he'd burned the one bridge he couldn't afford to lose. I listened without interrupting. When he finished, I said, "I'm not going to pretend this doesn't still hurt." It does. Every time I think about that day, about finding out after the fact, it feels like something breaks all over again. "I know," he said quietly. "And I don't expect you to just get over it. I don't even know if I'd forgive me if I were you. But I'm trying to be better. Not for show, not because people are watching. Just because I finally understand what I almost lost." Layla reached across the table and gently touched my hand. "He's different now," she said. "I see it every day. He actually listens when I talk about money. He doesn't just assume things will work out. He plans. He thinks ahead. And every time he sends you that check, he tells me it's not enough but it's something." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "Time will tell," I said. "Actions over words. Always." Omar nodded. "Always." When dinner ended, we stood outside the restaurant in the cold night air. Omar pulled me into a hug, and for the first time in months, I didn't pull away. "I'm going to keep paying you back," he said into my shoulder. "Even if it takes the rest of my life." "Good," I said. "Because I'm going to keep accepting it." Layla hugged me too, whispering, "Thank you for not giving up on him completely." I didn't respond, because the truth was complicated. I hadn't given up on him. But I had given up on being the person who sacrificed everything without question. And maybe that was the healthiest thing I'd ever done. As I drove home that night, I thought about everything that had happened. The wedding I'd paid for but never attended. The brother I'd raised who'd betrayed me. The months of silence and anger and finally, tentatively, healing. We weren't fixed. We might never be what we were before. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the old version of us, where I gave everything and he took everything, needed to die so something healthier could grow in its place. When I got home, I found another envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a check for $700 this time, not $500. And a note. "Fatima, got a year-end bonus. This felt right. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Love, Omar." I held that check and cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Not from sadness or anger, but from something that felt like closure. He was learning. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And I was learning too. Learning that love doesn't mean erasing boundaries. It means holding them firm until the other person learns to respect them. I put the check on my counter and whispered into the quiet apartment, "We're going to be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually." And for the first time in 8 years, I believed it. My phone buzzed with a text from Layla. "Thank you again for tonight. You're an amazing sister and an even more amazing woman. Omar is lucky to have you." I typed back, "He's lucky I didn't kill him. But yes, we're getting there." She sent back a laughing emoji and a heart. I smiled, set my phone down, and looked around my small apartment. For so long, this space had felt like a prison of responsibility and sacrifice. Now it just felt like home. Mine. Not defined by what I gave away, but by what I chose to keep. My peace. My boundaries. My sense of self-worth. Omar would keep sending checks. We'd keep rebuilding trust one awkward dinner at a time. And maybe someday, years from now, I'd look back on this and see it not as the time my brother betrayed me, but as the time we both finally grew up. But that was future Fatima's story to tell. Right now, I was just grateful to be here, standing in my own life, no longer carrying anyone else's weight. And that was enough. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.